heard correctly?
Yes.
That was the rumor on the street, and I was like,
$50 e-gift cards.
that's awesome.
Not up quite yet, but we'll be up there shortly.
Okay. And what do they do to win those? Is it just a general drawing?
There'll be a form that they just have to pop in and say that they're wanting to win, basically.
Oh,
I know.
because we all want to win.
Hang tight, we're having some sound issues.
Okay.
Come in.
Is it working?
You're good.
All right, sorry guys, we're having some sound issues. I will reiterate what I said just in case anybody was in that mix that didn't have the sound. There's going to be a Valentine's Day e-gift card giveaway. There will be $500 worth of e-gift cards. That is 10 $50 e-gift cards. There will be a form up on social media soon that you just keep an eye out for it. Make sure you follow the Jerry's Artorama social media. Just fill out that form that you want to win, and who doesn't want free art supplies? Because I want free art supplies. I'm here and I want free art supplies. So that would be awesome. Do that for yourself. Hopefully you'll win. Fingers crossed for you guys. And what date, do you know what date the drawing is, out of curiosity? Yeah. It'll say on the form.
Say on the thing. They're on my notes on my desk.
That's okay.
It's just not working.
That's a long way to wheel with that.
Yeah.
With that very tippy chair. Please don't do that. We just finally have you guys back health wise. Let's not crack a skull on the concrete floor. So, but we are at JL90. So if you're playing along at home and want to see any of the items that we use in this crazy debacle, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it's debacle. I peeled so much acrylic gel medium off myself earlier from working on this that it looked like it was like hands just like on their own. If you want to see any of the items, you're going to go to the jerrysartorama.com website. You're going to type in JL90 as your keyword code, hit search. It will pull up that entire list. You'll be able to see all of the things. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started, because this is gonna be a lot of ground to cover. We're not going to do everything like completely. We're just gonna talk about some of the things that you're gonna do. We'll show a few of the techniques just because we want to get all the way to the end. So mixed media, a lot of people are like, oh, that involves gluing down some clippings from a newspaper or a letter or card, and you know, getting some markers and some things like that. It can do that. Or you can take it up a notch and add a whole lot of other elements that maybe most people wouldn't normally think of. Mixed media doesn't have to be just a journal page that combines, you know, a few different types of art supplies. You can think bigger, better. You can start thinking along the lines of making, you know, real whole hog fine art with this. So we're just gonna do the artwork that I had from an ad that we did. Gosh, it's been what, Katie, 3 or 4 years, with the one with the feathers that I did, that we did for Mixed Media Magazine, and it was a very popular work and sold actually. So I don't have the actual work itself anymore, but I figured we would use that as a template, and we'll talk about this. So what we're going to be doing these on are the Da Vinci hardwood panels. I've got two 12 by 24s so that you can see kind of what we're using here, so we can split it in kind of almost like storyboards, if you will. I decided I was going to go for, I would just do the same topic because I had some old sketches from the kind of moon goddess thing that I did. It's based on a myth that I really like out of Gaelic folklore, I guess. That's moon goddess is Erenrod, and she takes spirits and takes them up into the heavens when they pass away, and kind of she's the goddess of the moon and kind of the caretaker of all the people. It's a very old myth. So I decided we would just go ahead and use that again. Katie, if you can pop up the table, we'll start doing the downward shots as we go. So I had sketches that I did, had probably 6 or 7 sketches. I just brought 2. These are done on squares. This panel is going to be 12 by 12. So I just did layouts on the square just to kind of decide and see what I liked, what I wanted, what seemed to fit, what compositionally was decent. I decided on this just very basic sketch. So we're going to go with that. What I did then was laid it out in a take this off of here without, hopefully, well, I'm gonna leave it on there because it's gonna fall down. Laid out the sketch on an actual size, true to size, 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Heavy, kind of thicker paper, I think it's 140-pound hot press watercolor paper. Did the sketch, then I started taking elements out because this was going to be storyboard-like. Yeah, I suppose I probably ought to have an apron, although it's gonna end up everywhere, Katie. Gel Medium and I are not friends. This episode is gonna take my OCD to a whole new level with hand gook. I know. You should see my office. It literally looks like a pheasant flew up and kaboom everywhere. There's probably 400 feathers on the
That's
floor.
the fun of mixed media.
Yeah, every time anybody opens my office for the next 3 weeks, they're gonna fluff up and kind of, you know, go down. What I've done is I've taken this and actually some of the elements, cut them so that I would be able to trace these on multiple boards as we did it. The moon is a cutout, but then with the moon, there's also part of the goddess. There's a cloak. There's the inner figure, just to make it easier for myself. I'd like to, coming from kind of a layout and design background, I like that way of doing it versus having to draw the same thing over and over and maybe not get the actual shape and form that I started with. I know that as long as I've got kind of this composite, I can draw it close enough where it's going to be kind of similar. So that was what I started with. So then, the first thing that I did, step one with this, we talked about substrates in, what episode was that? Was it 86? Earlier this year. If you want to see that, we talk about preparing substrates like panels, like canvas, raw canvas, canvas panels, and things like that. You know what?
I was just trying to think. I can't believe we're
I
at
can't-
90 already.
I know.
feel like we just did that.
I
one.
know. I'm like, we're just at 34 the other day. What I've done with this is used Golden's GAC 100 medium, which seals that wood, 3 coats, front and back. The front, the cradles, even did the back so that it's all nice and sealed, so it's not going to have issues with warping or separating or anything like that. What I've done is taken watercolor paper. What I thought was watercolor paper. Turns out this was the paper and got left here. I actually had printmaking paper that I used this last week and did this with, but I'm going to show you how we would put that down to glue it. It's very easy. You just take gel medium. Get it open now. Ugh. All right. I'm going to use we're using the Polar Flow brushes. This is just a nice big wash brush, but it's easy to apply this quickly. You want to be real careful with your edges, not go over. Kind of think ahead of time while you're getting this panel prepped and ready. You know, are you going to want to stain the sides? If you do, you're going to want to go ahead, stain those ahead of time. Well, and obviously not do the sealant on it yet. Stain the sides, then tape them off so you don't get the acrylic gel on it, because acrylic gel sticks to
Everything.
yes, everything. So you don't want to have that free and clear on there. You want that kind of taped off. If you're going to stain it, make sure that you sand it first, just to get it nice and baby butt smooth. What? Baby's butts are smooth? Oh, you were coughing. I thought you were laughing. Frida and the baby butts. All right.
Somebody asked if you could use the Jerry's Yes glue.
The Yes paste. I think isn't the Yes paste for is the Yes paste for doing a water mixable surface? I don't know. I use acrylic gel medium because I'm going to say they asked if you could use the Yes paste. If it's an acrylic based paste, yes, you could. But gel medium is nice and thick. It's very adhesive. It's going to stick really well, and it's going to be waterproof once you've got it done, because we're going to actually be using watercolor on this paper. You don't want something that might be water soluble that then once the water goes into this watercolor paper, that's actually going to lift that out of there and be a problem.
Yes Paste specifies that it is water-based and dextrin-based.
Yeah, don't do that. That's a vegetable starch. So that's more for gluing and things like that where you're not going to be re-wetting it. So Yes Paste is not what you would want to use. All right, so I've got this ready to go. When I do this, I'm not going to use gloves now because I've got so much sticky stuff on my hands from using this gel medium. I'll never get them back off. I would have gloves on first because I'm going to work it from the middle to the outside. I can feel really easily with my hands any lumps or bumps where there's a little bit thicker patches of gel. So do as I say, not as I do. You'll get hand oil all over this piece of paper and then it'll be a problem. You're gonna get that nice and smooth. Make sure you kind of rub your hands back over it. Make sure that you don't feel any, like I feel some bumps there, so I'm gonna work it out. And what I do is use paper that's about 1 inch to maybe 1.5 inches wider than my actual panel because I want that extra width. I would take this, I would put a nice clean sheet of paper on top of this. I would flip it over on an absolutely flat surface that is smooth and, you know, clean, no bumps or lumps. I would put that clean paper down, then this down. I would weight the back. I used gallons of just terpenoid that we had sitting around here when I did the other ones. Put it in it, hold it down, then I would take a clean brush. There's acrylic that's come up from the sides. That's the excess. I would wipe that off, go around the entire thing, wipe that excess. And then I would let that sit to dry overnight, okay? And there'll be people that I know are going to say, can you just use, you know, a hair dryer or heat gun or something like that to dry it? You need this to be flat so it bonds really nicely, and you don't want to rush that and make it not dry naturally. Just give it time, plan ahead to have the time to let it set overnight. Then you're gonna, when you're done, you're gonna wanna put it on the mat. Yes, Amanda.
Could you use Mod Podge?
I believe Mod Podge may be dextrin based. I'm not sure.
Okay.
We don't
sell it,
have it, so I don't know. But I would use just acrylic gel medium because we know for sure this is Amy tested, Amy approved. It's used as an actual archival adhesive. Okay, Mod Podge is a crafter's glue, an adhesive. So I don't know what that is, but we're going for fine art. So what are we always going to do? Full on archival, right? Yes. So this is gonna be dry. I'm gonna take an X-Acto knife and I would cut around it on the edges. I'm not gonna do that because it's wet and it's gonna make a big mess. The paper needs to dry first. But then you can just, if you need to, sand the edge a little bit, clean it up, and it will be ready to go. You can see that that's nice and flat there. All right, so we're going to go to the next step. We've got our template, we've got our papered panel here. Next step, I would take that template. Where did the template go? Hold on. I know I've got it somewhere. Too many things. Katie?
Which other part?
Where did I put the template from the, that's not
Underneath?
Here it is, I'm sorry. All right. I set it way off to the side where I never put anything. All right, so the first thing that I would do is I would take the form to block out, reserve that bit of paper, and make sure that it's not going to have color on it because we're going to come back in with acrylic gouache. So there's my template with the part of the form that I want the paper to be clean. All right, fits right there. I would take a very light pencil, like an H. I usually use an H or an F. I would trace lightly around that form. You don't want to push in real hard. You don't want to leave dents because in case you don't notice it, and then you've got pencil lines out there. That looks really crappy. And I'm gonna say, it's gonna be an Amy finger wagging moment. Going to that Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit at the North Carolina Art Museum, I'm not sure what they were thinking of, because the people that they paired her with, there were two artists that I was like, yes, this makes sense. This is the spirit of Georgia O'Keeffe. And the work, not that it was similar, but you could feel that kind of, either the theme or the love of the items. The other stuff, A, terrible. B, the workmanship. There were I don't even know, 6 or 7 others that I did not care for at all. One, there was decent workmanship. The rest were garbage. I never saw so many overdrawn pencil lines, so many where stuff was sloppy, the coverage wasn't complete. It looked like little kid art. And it wasn't that it wasn't drawn well, but the quality, you know what I'm talking about, Katie? Workmanship, craftsmanship, attention to detail. I was literally ready to have a stroke. It's one of the worst exhibits I've ever seen. I was very, very sad after it. Think about this, guys. If your work could, Georgia O'Keeffe's gone, right? Bless her, but she's gone. Her work stands the test of time. It's still there, right? Good quality workmanship. Think this stuff could speak for you later. Don't leave a mess and junk. Yes, Amanda.
Did you say what you made the template out of?
Yes, hot press watercolor paper, 140 pound. All right, so that's traced on there. Then I just took out the handy dandy Turner Artist watercolor set. Actually made a blend of phthalo blue and the dark Maya blue. Now with watercolor paper, this type of paper that I just glued on, this would take very differently. This I actually was really happy with, because this looked like an old paper that we used to carry that was called Lacta paper, that was this really beautiful, already dyed kind of handmade paper that was from, I don't know, we got it from Tibet or someplace like that. Do you remember those big, pretty,
beautiful,
sunshiny colors? And that was actually what I used for the other artwork that I did, and I just loved it. And when this went on, I was like, it looks just like that paper. I'm so happy. So normally I would have made this a lot darker, but I liked the really washy effect of how it affected the printmaking paper, because the sizing is not the same as watercolor paper. So I was happy with that, went ahead and went with it, and was fine. Now I will say, this is watercolor. We're gonna be using other water-based things on it, right? So what do you do to keep that from picking back up? What do you do to make sure that the glue soaks in? Little bit of, a couple coats of just drawing, graphite and charcoal drawing fixative. Okay, 2 quick coats, just seals it just enough where that watercolor's not gonna come popping up, but I can use the acrylic gouache over it. I can use acrylic gel and nothing is gonna pick up. I'm not gonna end up with blue stuff everywhere, okay? Plus that actually, that fixative gives a tiny bit of tooth, so stuff, in my opinion, actually kind of grabs on just that little bit better. So that's what we've got for that second panel. Ready to go. Let me just, okay, so the next thing that I did with that moon, remember the little moon template? I wanted to take, because I really liked this paper and kind of the natural looking inconsistencies of it, I took some of the Phenomenon rice paper that's called shell paper. It's got kind of a scree of color over it with these beautiful little pieces of shells, so it's got some glimmer and shimmer to it. Comes in all sorts of colors, but I really liked the yellow with this blue and with some of the other colors that I was going to be using. So took it out. I've already pre-cut my moon out. Cut it very purposefully so that the lines will actually coincide with right here. So we're gonna glue that on so you can see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about working with the gel medium. All right. Let's just take, I need a little bit smaller brush so this isn't so messy everywhere. All right,
Quick,
got
while you're doing that.
Yes.
I just have, the past couple of episodes, people have been hitting the message us thing instead of chatting in the chat.
Oh.
And nobody's monitoring the emails while we're doing this, we're only monitoring the
Oh,
chat
okay.
room. So just wanna make sure that when they're doing that they're actually asking in the chat and
Awesome.
not sending us a private message.
Did you guys, could you hear that through your headphones, guys? Katie's voice.
It may
Say
take a
that.
We're
second.
28
Okay,
seconds.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let us know. All right. All right, so, yes,
Can we
Frida.
have a quick reminder about the type of fixative that you used?
The fixative that I used just to very lightly seal this was just a regular graphite in charcoal fixative. I have the Sennelier fixative at home just because that's what I've got. I think it's the Delacroix. But I mean, the Krylon, anything will work. You just don't want to use like a finished varnish, like an MSA varnish or something like that, because you still want this to be absorbent enough. If you go to put any other water-based media on it, you don't want it to be sealed out or cause issues. All right, so got my shell paper. Could you guys hear Katie's thing? Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right, so I'm gonna take this from the center. You know what, there's still sizing in this brush. I must use the smaller one. I'm not gonna go all the way to the outside because there's gonna be that little bit of excess that's gonna come from behind it, and because it's a very thin paper, I don't wanna oversaturate it. Now you can use any kind of paper. These are all things that you can substitute and play with. This is what makes it mixed media, is you're using lots of different things, making good combinations, but you're also layering wisely, like the watercolor under the acrylic. All right. So I've got my moon. I want it nice and kind of straight here, fitting it right onto that little patterned edge that I've got. Turning it just a little. All right, from the center. Again, work your way out from the center so that you don't have a bunch of little lumpy bumps and wrinkling in your paper. All the way out to the outside. Okay. All right. We good? We got our moon on there. We're all ready to go to the next step. Okay, we got our figure. All right, so now we're gonna add some sparkle, which I don't know how this didn't turn out how I was like really liked it, but it still is kind of cool, so I'm not gonna, I would not do this again necessarily because it doesn't go with kind of the look that I wanted for the piece in particular, but I mean, it works nice. And it's just a way to show you a technique. So I've got Liquitex glass bead gel. It's got little glass beads in this white emulsion that's going to dry, acrylic emulsion that's going to dry clear. And then I took the Lame Silver Turner Acrylic Gouache. It's gouache, yes, but it's acrylic, so these guys can get blended together. I'm just gonna put a couple little squirts in there to give it, what the Lame is just clear acrylic resin with like little tiny sparkle. Yes, Amanda.
Hey, you just put the gel medium under where you were gonna put the moon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
And don't paint back over it, because if you would want to go back over that with any water media, I mean, number one, it's got that acrylics or the scree of color on, and it's got the kind of those really small delicate shell pieces, so I don't want to do a lot of playing around with them if I don't need to. Put it on the back. It's got to be just like gluing things in school, paste. You stick the paste on the back of what you're going to glue it to, right? And put it down. You don't want it going up over the front. This isn't like journaling where we're going to keep kind of layering and layering and layering, and we need it to kind of stick down and maybe even seal like copy that might be on it. All right. It's I mean, you could do that if you want. The issue is just that you need to remember that you're not going to be able to go back over that with watercolor and get it to stick. Okay? I wanted this like that, so.
Also, somebody asked if you sealed the graphite to the surface so it doesn't get picked up if you use oil paint. But you're using.
I traced it out, and I traced it very, very lightly, and then I put that fixative already on it. So if you use, the problem is people use higher B number pencils.
Yeah.
When they're doing tracing, you
They're
always use an
dusty.
H or an F. Those are much harder. They have a lot more clay, a lot less graphite in it. So you can see your item, but it's not going to transfer. That transfer, when people have that with paint, with watercolor or oil or anything, is because they're using too high of a graphite count with it's really soft. That's just like smearing a drawing, you know? So always use that lower number. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick some of this up. I wanna make where it looks kind of like clouds coming across here. So all I'm doing is just those are mixed together really nice and well. I'm just taking that and I'm putting a little bit of cloud kind of cover, so to speak, with those the glass bead gel and that silver lame. You might want to practice on something first just to get make sure that you get kind of that cloud form. You could use a brush if you wanted. I just thought it would be easier to put on here for quickness sake for the show with the palette knife. Okay? This will dry clear. You'll see with some of the other examples that it's nice and clear. And you'll be able to see the glass beads and you'll be able to see the sparkle from the lame. All right? So that is our first panel. That's all done. What's going on, Amanda? Is there a sound issue?
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right.
Girl, I'll tell you.
All right. Let's see. I'm gonna put this down here in case I need to grab it again. We've got it. All right. So the next thing we're going to do then. Now this one will kind of show you what this is going to look like with that. See how the silver is on there? You can see the silver and you can see the glass beads. This part right in here and here is not quite dry. I made it a lot thicker on this one by accident because it was 2:30 in the morning. And then I was like, oh, that's gonna have to dry by tomorrow. That was not very wise. And I got the other ones were like still wet enough to kind of smooth out, but that one had been done first and it was a little too tacky and I didn't want to mess with it too much. So this will dry clear here in these last little spots. It was just that kind of thickest area that's kind of flattened out. All right, so we've got our moon, we've got the background color, we've got the kind of figure outline, we've got the sparkle in the sky. Then we're going to get the rest of the stuff on here. So we would take our template again. We've got the moon, we can pull that out. We've got our figure that we put up here, remember guys? Put that on there, or you know, whatever your figure is. The reason this is cut out is for this. I can get this on here, I can get it all centered, and then I can pull this part off and leave my figure on here exactly where the figure needs to be in that drawing, right? And then I can trace around my figure and get that outline of the inside part of the person on here and kind of all the things that I want that to look like. Then I did the same with the outside of it. See how I've got just with this is just a white gel pen. See how that is drawn? That's permanent. It's drawn on the blue, so I can see that outline, but it's gonna be something I can cover back over really easily with the acrylic gouache, right? Is everybody getting that? Does anybody have any like questions? Have we thrown anybody for a loop already? All right. So once that's been traced out, then I just fill in the drawing there. You can see that she's filled in like that. Then I'm going to be going for starting to fill this in. I'm just making sure that I've got
Cindy would like to know
Yes.
how long in general it takes the glass bead bit to dry.
It just depends. It depends on your humidity. It depends on a lot of things. It's been really warm here yet again, which it had not been. So, and it's a lot more humid. It's 70 something today, right guys?
It's beautiful.
So, I mean, it's beautiful, but it's humid. So, and it's very sweltery in here. So that is gonna slow that dry time down. If you're up in New York and you've got, you know, heat blasting out of a furnace and it's like dry as heck and your nose is all, you know, not happy from dry room, then it's gonna dry much faster for you. All right, so what I did here, then we'll just do a little bit of this so you can see how dark the squash goes on. I took, of course, my favorite color, Prussian blue, because everybody knows that's my favorite. That's my favorite color.
Is it really?
Do you know the that's my favorite color story? I can tell you while we're doing this.
Do it.
Okay, so while I do this, I will tell the story. We go to compete for some reason, I don't even know, when I was in college at a sandcastle building contest, and we did a giant sand dragon and we won like 3rd place. And then they had these beautiful fireworks on the beach at night. It was the Lake Michigan, and these little kids were down there sitting at a park bench right in front of us, and every time there was an explosion, the kid would say, "That's my favorite color!" And it kept happening and kept happening, and it's like everybody kind of chuckled the first couple times, and on about the 57th time, nobody was saying anything to the parents, and the parents wouldn't shut the kids up, and we were all just like, oh my god, just shut that kid up. So my friend and I stood up and yelled, and the next one we both stood up and screamed, "That's my favorite color!" And then all the adults laughed and cheered. So every time I say that, that's, now you know the reference to why I think that's so funny to say.
I have a question, or rather, the real
Okay.
Mithril has a question.
Okay.
Is acryl gouache more or less pigmented than standard gouache, and are they slower or faster drying? And is there any way to retard the drying of acryl gouache?
Okay, acryl gouache is going to dry incredibly fast. It's very light on resin, it's very heavy on pigment, depending on the brand. So it's going to dry very quickly. The problem with retarding that is you have to add an acrylic, you know, agent to slow it down, which gouache is matte. It's matte because of the fact that it's got so much pigment put in it. You're going to make that suddenly not, you know, not that nice flat black, you know, color, whatever color you've got, because you're adding something that's an acrylic back in with it that's going to thin it and make it more of a semi-transparent color, right? So there's no point, if you want to use gouache for the beauty of that nice, really fast dry, very quick, you know, flat, pretty bright pigmented color, you just really just need to go to regular acrylics, because that's not gonna, the beauty of acrylic gouache though, I mean look, this is already dried at the touch that I just painted, and it's not because it's on this paper. It just dries that quickly even on, you know, shinier surfaces. So you can paint right over it if you do something you don't like. It's just learning to paint much quicker with it being gouache. All right, so see how this is already getting nice and matte here? Wow, that just looks like dark anyway, doesn't it? So you guys can't see the, is there the screen where you can see the side shot, or is that being finicky
Hold,
today,
please.
Katie?
I can do it.
Because maybe they'll be able to see the difference in the sheen. Now, I got very carried away when I did this, these clouds, and I didn't plan for where the edges were going to be for the cloak. This is not going to stay this color. What I'm doing is I'm going to be gluing things over it with the acrylic medium. So I want this really dark color behind it, so if anything doesn't show all the way, like you can see through it with the gel medium that I'm going to attach it with, it just looks like a nice dark color, so you don't read it as, oh my gosh, I can see through that, what horrible workmanship. And the same thing with those white lines. You're going to want to go ahead and cover those very gently. The gouache will stick to it. Now you can use regular acrylic with this. If you wanted to not be able to put water-based mediums back on it, you could do this part in oil. You would just want to gesso that paper to protect it from your oil painting, your medium of the oils being so acidic. Does that help? Can you see the shine, the wet shine?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like, see, you can see the kind of the difference between the two. All right, so we would continue on with this.
That stuff dries so fast.
Yes, it
Especially on
does.
that substrate.
It's lovely. All right, let's go to the next one because we want to make sure we've got time for all of this. And this episode's going fast. All right.
They always do.
I know.
It's like we think we have all the
I
time.
know.
We get on
And
here
it's
and
like,
everything's
no!
so awesome. It's like,
There's
boom,
no
done.
time. All right, so next one. The reveal is we've got the second side. We've got all that same stuff. We've got the moon. We've got our dark colors. We've got our, you can really see how this is not, you can see just the kind of clear shimmery. It's not, it looks like right in there is just a little bit that still needs to dry, maybe right there. But notice how much cleaner and prettier that is for the two. So you've got that. We've got some of the skin tone roughed in. We've got all those things all ready to go. Do you guys need, is there a question? No?
No.
Okay. All right, cool.
Just ignore us.
All right. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna add an element. We're gonna have it ready. I would have done it here, but we've got wet paint and I don't wanna do that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a drawer pull, an antique drawer pull here, because I like the idea of something very three-dimensional sticking out. This whole thing is gonna be pushing the 2D and 3D. So I would just take a cordless drill. I'm gonna look at what the size is of my little knob. I got these at just like a local craft store. You can get them online. It was just a little 3-pack of antique knobs. There's a screw in it. I looked at what size the screw was, made sure it was just a little bit bigger. This, our drill bit. Made sure, when you do this, you want it on a nice solid surface. And you want to go slow, because what's going to happen is, because this is a birch panel, it's got grain. You want to go nice and slow so it doesn't bust through and kind of dent the back of it, right? Once it breaks through, kind of weave it up and down a little just to make that hole nice and smooth. So we've got the hole there. That's ready to be threaded when I get down to the next step. So we've got that already taken care of and done there, ready to go. Don't need the drill for anything more unless you want to add a whole bunch of other stuff.
That's a whole different episode.
Yes. Now, you'll see in the next panel that we're going to do, I actually started painting this with some of this. We'll show a little bit of this because it's just really pretty and it's nice to see kind of what those, that's dry enough to put that on. See, that's how quickly that dries. Now these are the pearl colors. There is a very deep color pearl indigo and the color pearl white. These are not your typical, even though these are called gouache, these are not your typical ones because they've got the mica in it, makes real fine mica, makes for the bright shiny colors. It's going to have more resin, so that actually will reflect just like the lame colors do. All right. So with gouache, you can go 2-to-1 paint to water. So you can actually thin that down some. But look how nice and pretty pigmented that gets. And that sticks really well, even with that little bit of that of the workable fixative on it, so it's nice and clean. Now gouache is something you only, with the acryl gouache, you only want to be putting this on hard surfaces. You don't want to be using this, say, you know, you don't want to drill anything through this. I used the panels because I wanted to drill into it and add some kind of neat things like that. And I like the hard wood and the cradle panels and everything. You would not want to be painting with an acrylic. You want to use a traditional acrylic on your stretch canvas because this is brittle when it dries because it's heavy pigment, light resin. Remember, that's what makes it so bright and beautiful. But in that same sense, if you've got a canvas and you've got flecks in it and it kind of bends in and out, you could potentially have cracking and have problems with it. So you would want to use your traditional acrylic on there if that's what you're choosing to do, rather than with that acryl gouache. Sorry, I start painting and then I'm like, words, my voice gets far away. All right, so do the dress, I would do the detail for the face, get everything kind of, my painting kind of squared away to go, and the last one we're going to show that we're going to attach some other things on is not completed to the effect that I would want to by any means. Oh, we need to add another element. We can start adding some of these while we're here. Say this painting gets finished. She's like an owl, right? Like an owl goddess. There's kind of the cloak of feathers, right? So what does an owl need that's owly?
Feathers.
And that blows up my office. to make it
Judginess.
Look like what?
Judginess.
Judginess, that's right.
Feathers.
Angry owl. All right, I'm gonna get a few out just to show how you can put this on here without actually doing too much, because otherwise then we will have 9,000 feathers back here as well. So I just went on eBay, not eBay, on Amazon and got a whole bunch of different feathers. Now, just, you know, read reviews. If they say it smells like mothballs, guess what? Chances are it smells like mothballs.
I think some of our stores actually carry some accoutrement like
Oh,
that.
awesome.
We just don't carry it on the website.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm taking the, I've got an X-Acto knife. I'm taking that and cutting down some of these because I just want the eyes. I don't want all this other crazy stuff. When you place feathers, you need to do it in a very meaningful way, because otherwise you'll have kind of the feather quills sticking out everywhere. And the nice thing about feather, start at the bottom, work your way up, and cover, right? Overlap, just like fish scales. Now, how do you apply these? You're going to use the acrylic gel again. Just the gloss gel medium or a heavy gloss gel will work. What I'm going to do is paint on relatively thickly. Just, I'm doing this on my blue part. We're taking into consideration that we're saying we've already painted the rest of that, okay? And we're pretending there's not this other one on the side because this is going to look a little wacky. All right. So this is going to be on the bottom and I want it to hang off. I'm going to place this one like that. So this would actually be hanging off my panel because my panel line is there. Gently push it down and smooth it into that gel medium. Now this is where I'm saying you can see through to that blue. That's fine because the blue will be behind it. It just looks like a background. Nobody's necessarily the wiser that kind of some of that background is showing through. All right, and if I'm going to overlap, I put a little bit on the feather. Sticking that down. And then I'm going to start building, going that way. Let's stick a couple of these little guys on and not get out too much. So we don't have the, and don't anybody sneeze, please, ladies. No sneezing. This is definitely a learned skill, but it's not something that's very difficult. It takes forever. With these, I am keeping the longer stems on because I'm going to overlap them with other things in front of it. And if it starts getting a little wobbly and it's not sticking down, take your brush with some medium on it. Remember that that medium might look white now, but it's going to dry clear and kind of smooth down some of those little soft feathers and kind of cover it up. Okay, and I would just keep building that. And this is where you get lots of gel medium on your hands because it sticks to everything. It's like Frank's Red Hot, but it gets that stuff on everything. What? All right, can everybody kind of see how that's layered there? Put a couple brighter ones to see. And you're gonna wanna work from the bottom everywhere that you go. Don't get too excited and go too far up one way because then you're gonna have issues with trying to tuck them in when it's already been kind of glued on. Does anybody have questions about any of this, guys?
I think they're just having fun watching.
They're taking bets on how messy I'll be by the end of the episode.
You're pretty neat at the moment, actually.
Oh, I wasn't earlier because I was flying, so. You saw what my manicure looked like in the bathroom with all the stuff on it.
I thought you were turning into a bird. You
Yep.
were spreading wings.
That's kind of what it looked like, wasn't it? Okay. All right. So there we go. We got all that going. So we would continue on. Started this. Then with the kind of the headpiece up here, you work up and stop, and then you kind of work up and towards those little wings, okay? All right. So let me put the lid, well, I'm gonna need that, so let's not put the lid. Let's get rid of the floof. Don't want too much floof because that's gonna, it's already airborne. I see them flying around. All right.
That's what feathers do.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have one that's got the feathers. All right. Yes. So we've got the glass beads. We've got, she's painted on here. The feathers have all been put on so you can see that they kind of layer up and around. I took a little bit of this clear lame diamond just to make sure that it would be plenty dry so we can glue some stuff over it. It's got all sorts of different colors. You can see that it's a different sparkly than in here where it's very silver. I put a little bit of that around there just to kind of give the moon a halo. Drawer pull is put on. See the drawer pull there? So it's got actually some depth and dimension to it. All right, it's just screwed in on the back. Then we're going to get some other little fun doodads. This is the part that I'm really bad at, making it even messier. All right. So, because she was supposedly, you know, research your little person or whatever you kind of want to paint, she would carry people on a wheel to heaven. So we need something either that looks like a wheel, like this looks kind of like a wheel, it's a little gear, or I've got a compass that's also kind of cool. We could put a little compass on there and adhere that. And then I've got some smaller gears. What do you ladies think? What do you want to do?
I like the compass one.
The compass? All right. We'll go with the
Pointing
compass
the way.
and we'll put some little gears because what we'll do is we're going to use the compass to signify the world because she's kind of the guardian of the world. And then we'll put some other little gears around it almost to make kind of like a little solar system in those sparkles that she's got, okay? All right, so we're just gonna use our gel medium again. With this, I'm not gonna paint it on the back. I'm going to just put some down across here. Now, if it's not, this is a pretty rough back to it. If it's not rough, roughen it up with a little bit of sandpaper, whatever you choose to put down. Okay, there's that. I'm pushing it down. It's made like a little divot of resin. I'm gonna pull it out with a dry brush, just so it doesn't have like a big lumpy shine thing there. Again, workmanship. All right. Then let's take some of these other little gears and lay them in. That one might be a little bit big. Let's do this one. So let's do a little. You can lay these out ahead of time so that you can kind of decide what you're gonna do with it. And remember, all this is gonna dry clear, so don't worry that it's white and it doesn't look good. It will be fine. It will dry nice and clear. That one actually is very small. I'm actually gonna put a little bit in there to make sure it stays in. I would rather be safe than sorry. Just gonna take off that texture part to it. All right, and I've got one more little one.
Sprockets.
Mm-hmm. All right, can everybody see those on there? I know they're kind of neutral tones, so it's hard to see. So then what I would choose to do, the one I did last time had, I used Swarovski crystals to put the, some stars on. So you know what, I want to put some beads on this too, because those are all really flat. I'm gonna put a couple. I'm curious to see how these will do. I'm gonna put one little green bead on.
That's the fun thing about mixed media is you can pretty much, as long as you follow a couple rules, put whatever you want.
Right.
If
Definitely.
It works. If it doesn't, figure out a way to make it work.
Well, an acrylic gel will stick most anything to most anything. All right, so I've got a little bead there, and I'm gonna take a little tiny silver, it's a little tiny silver sun. It's got a sun pendant on it, so I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna put it right here. And the thing is, there's no rhyme or reason. You can do whatever you want. The nice thing is, do some sort of theme. Make it so that it's a story. This is essentially like a narrative portrait, right?
So once you're done with that, what would you recommend as far as like framing or a cover to avoid dust?
You could do it in a shadow box, but you would probably need to come up with something that's lit because this would be very dark. You could just use like a spray varnish. What I did with the one that I had is I used a paint on UV varnish and went as close up under the feathers as I could and just did it in very small areas and worked it in. You could, and then I did a Soluvar over the whole thing,
Including the feather?
including the feathers.
Huh.
Just to protect them from dust.
Yeah.
It missed sun, right?
Sure.
I figured, what else are you gonna do? Otherwise, they're still gonna get dusty and
right.
nasty. At least it would protect, hopefully, kind of maybe preserve a little bit of the color, because you know feathers can get kind of yucky over time.
Right.
All right, and the last time I did these, see, I've got some little crystals here for stars up in the sky. These are a lot bigger than I thought they were gonna be. I'm still gonna put some on. These don't, I had a 17-year-old with me that was like, no, use that one. No, use that one. And he told me to get the smaller ones, and I was like, but no, we want to see them on camera. And then I got them out and was like, I should have listened to him and got the smaller ones. So kudos, Elam. You apparently know more about this than I do. But I would probably use the Swarovski crystals again. They're just really expensive. Really, really expensive. So if I was doing this for my own artwork where I was going to, put this in a show or a gallery or whatever, eventually I would definitely use those crystals. With this, we're just gonna, now these little things that I got have sticky on the back of them. I didn't know that. I'm still gonna put the gel medium because I want them to like
They don't stick forever.
really stick. So I've put a dot of that down and I'm just taking my brush and pushing that down. You can see that little bit of a white outline. That will be clear and it will be cemented on there really nicely. So I'm just gonna put some of these on. Questions? while we're doing this?
Not
Yeah.
really.
Now, I would say it would be wise to, if you're gonna wire this and hang it kind of free, where it's, you know, gonna just be hung on the wall without a frame or anything like that, I would definitely wire this ahead of time, because suddenly this becomes really difficult to put on something flat to wire the back.
Oh, right.
Right? So you may want to do that, finish all your painting and all that. Don't put any of the feathers on yet. Don't put, you know, any of the big stuff, the doorknob, all that type of stuff, drawer knob. Do that first and then work at it. Now, if I was going to do this, I would like this. The other one I did was very dark. I'll post a picture of the other one that I did in the Jerry's live Facebook group, so they can see the original, and then we'll post a picture of this one once it's dry. Don't you think, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure that, so they can kind of see what one to the other. The other one's actually going to be out in the Acrylics 6 book in March.
Oh, is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That Artist Network does. It was accepted into that book because it was kind of new and unique ways that people use acrylic, and it was acrylic gouache, and so they said, yes, we like that. That's unique. So that will be in there.
You're special.
Yeah, that's one word that people do use. All right. What, anybody getting ideas from this? Wanting to go out and try doing something fun like this? Comments, questions, criticisms?
No, everybody's just kind of having
It's pretty
fun.
crafty for me, I know.
Everybody's just having fun.
So this is just the quick version of this. This is actually kind of how I'm going to base that workshop I'm doing in July or June out at Focus and Art Center. We're going to do this, but we're going to do this on a big giant scale and incorporate all sorts of really awesome stuff. So I'm already looking at fun doodads for that. All right, put out some of these smaller ones. All right, well, if there are no questions, I guess we can just go ahead and wrap it up. You want to give them a minute to get last questions in?
Everybody's just kind of oohing and awing over everything.
So
And saying
next,
congratulations.
oh, thank you. Next week we are doing, it is JL91. We are doing beginning drawing, but never fear, those of you that draw, we're going to talk about techniques that more advanced people can do. I'll bring some stuff from very basic kind of line drawing thoughts and techniques to much more advanced, just because it's an hour, you know? So, and we're going to use just a basic set, just the Jerry's Colossal sketch pad, which we all love.
We love.
You know, that's a nice, easy, very good quality paper for the price, and you can get a big giant one for a
I have them in
super
every
incredible
size.
value. Yes. Well, and you know, we go through so much of them, the cover got torn on our other one, so I ordered us another one in because we go through so many of those. Anyway, might as well.
They're good paper and so inexpensive.
Yes. All right, well, if there are no questions, I think it's safe to say we can wrap this up. We'll put pictures of this. We'll wait till tomorrow, make sure it's good and dry. We'll put pictures of this in the Jerry's group. And we'll see you next week for the basic drawing episode then. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.